There's a truth about women that society often prefers to ignore, and it's this. We, as women, possess the capacity to love so deeply that it can become dangerous to ourselves. I'm not speaking only of romantic love, but of an innate tendency to emotionally merge with another person so completely that we risk losing our own identity. Over decades of clinical practice, I've observed a disturbing pattern. Incredibly intelligent and capable women who, once they fall in love, seem to activate an inner mechanism of self-destruction. It's as if love itself becomes a switch, one that turns off their emotional survival instinct. And what's most unsettling is that this happens most often to the most empathetic, generous, and devoted women. The female brain is neurologically wired for deep connection. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released in us with such intensity that it can cloud our rational thinking entirely. This is our evolutionary strength. But if we don't learn to consciously manage it, it can easily become our greatest weakness. This ability to form profound emotional bonds is not a flaw. It's a superpower. Women are capable of creating connections that reach far beneath the surface, that touch another person's soul. We can sense needs that haven't yet been spoken. We can offer comfort in the depths of pain. We can love with such intensity that it can literally change lives. But this is where the danger lies. If this ability isn't guided by healthy boundaries, it becomes a form of self-betrayal. And what I've discovered after years of clinical observation is that there's a fundamental difference between loving deeply and losing yourself in love. I've identified 7 recurring behavioral patterns that women often display, believing they're proving their love, but which in reality lead them into emotional depths that are incredibly hard to escape. These are not self-help tips. They are clinical observations of real, destructive dynamics patterns that not only destroy relationships, but corrode the very essence of who you are. These patterns repeat regardless of age, education, financial status, or cultural background. I've seen successful executives, brilliant doctors, gifted artists, and extraordinary mothers all fall into the same self-destructive behaviors when it comes to love. It's as if an ancient inner code gets activated, a primal message that whispers, "You must disappear in order to be loved." The first destructive behavior is giving up your dreams for a man. And here's what you need to understand on a neurological level. When you abandon your goals for someone else, your brain interprets it as the symbolic death of your identity. This creates what I call an existential vacuum, a state in which a woman completely loses connection to her sense of purpose. What makes this phenomenon so cruel is its subtlety. You don't wake up one morning and decide to give up everything you've built. It happens slowly, almost invisibly. Perhaps you postpone a career opportunity for a few months to be more available to him. Then you turn down a project that excites you because the timing isn't right. Gradually, you start placing his needs above your own, believing it's only temporary that your time will come later. I've seen brilliant women walk away from research fellowships, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and extraordinary personal projects, all because a man told them he couldn't live without them. Inevitably, those men drifted away. Not because they were cruel, but because they unconsciously sensed that the woman had lost what had first drawn them in, her passion, her purpose, her inner spark. When a woman sacrifices her dreams, she sends a dangerous message to her partner and to her own subconscious. I don't matter. And the subconscious, so incredibly obedient, begins to shape her entire reality around that belief. Her self-worth crumbles. Her identity fades, and paradoxically, she becomes less attractive to the very man who claims to love her. A man who truly loves you will never ask you to give up your dreams, because he understands that your dreams are an essential part of who you are. If he destroys that, he destroys the very essence of what he fell in love with. Real love does not want to possess, it wants to uplift. It does not wish to restrict, but to expand. It does not seek to control, but to set free. And here's something I've consistently observed. Women who continue to pursue their dreams, who chase their goals regardless of their relationship status, aren't just more attractive to men, they attract men of higher emotional maturity. Mature, self-assured men seek partners who have their own lives, their own interests, their own passions. Which brings me to the second self-destructive behavior, acting like a wife when you are only a girlfriend. This is something many women don't fully grasp. There is a profound neurological and emotional difference between a real commitment and the hope for one. I've seen women cook, clean, offer emotional support, solve family problems, and even play the role of a mother to his children, all without the emotional security of true commitment. It's as if they're endlessly auditioning for a role that may never be given to them. This behavior is especially common among women who were conditioned in childhood to believe that their value lies in how well they care for others. They learn that to be loved, they must be useful. They carry the belief that if they just try hard enough, if they show how nurturing, patient, and devoted they can be, he will have no choice but to commit. But this often leads to what we call anticipatory abandonment anxiety. The woman lives in a constant state of alert, always giving, always proving, always afraid that if she doesn't do enough, he'll leave. And when a woman behaves this way, she isn't truly loving. She's pleading for love. The male brain, unlike the female brain, is wired to value what it must earn. This is a deeply rooted evolutionary mechanism. When a woman gives everything without requiring effort, he unconsciously begins to devalue what he has received. It's not malice, it's biology. And here lies the cruelest paradox. The more a woman does to prove her worth, the less worthy she appears in his eyes. The harder she tries to be indispensable, the more dispensable she becomes. It's a destructive cycle I've seen countless extraordinary women endure. Mature love does not need to be begged for, it is freely offered. It doesn't reveal itself through desperate acts, but through authentic presence. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to audition for love. She simply is, and that is enough. The third behavior I often encounter is this: women transferring their assets into a man's name even within marriage. And here's something fascinating. The women who love the deepest are often the ones who take the greatest financial risks. I've seen women lose homes, businesses, and lifelong savings because they believe that true love should not require legal protection. They confuse caution with distrust, and that confusion can cost them decades of hard work. This tendency has deep social roots. For generations, women have been taught that love is proven through sacrifice, through total surrender and blind trust. We've been made to believe that protecting our financial interest is selfish or unloving. But mature love is not naive. Mature love understands that emotions can fade, but financial consequences remain. When a woman protects her assets, it is not because she distrusts her partner. It is because she respects herself. And something remarkable happens. Women who safeguard their financial independence often find themselves in more stable, balanced relationships because they have retained their personal power. And personal power is magnetic. Financial independence isn't just practically important, it's psychologically essential. When a woman knows she can take care of herself, when she understands that her survival doesn't depend on anyone else, she begins to make decisions from a place of freedom rather than fear. And decisions made from freedom are always wiser than those born of desperation. I've found that financially independent women tend to have more balanced, respectful, and enduring relationships. Men respect them more because they respect themselves. It's a simple and powerful equation. The fourth self-destructive behavior is distancing yourself from the people who truly love you, just to please a man. And here comes a bitter truth you need to hear. If a man asks you to cut ties with your family or friends, that is not love. It's a deeply toxic need for control. I've seen women end long-standing friendships and estrange themselves from families who had loved and supported them unconditionally, all for the sake of men they'd known only a few months. Without exception, these women ended up isolated and vulnerable, because isolation is the first strategy of emotional control. This pattern is especially insidious because it rarely starts openly. He doesn't demand that you cut people off. Instead, He makes subtle, dismissive remarks about your friends. He starts arguments when you make plans with your family. He becomes jealous of the time you spend with others. Bit by bit, he makes you feel guilty for maintaining your closest relationships. Yet our brains need multiple sources of affirmation and support to stay emotionally balanced. When a woman severs those connections and places her entire emotional stability in one person, it becomes neurologically unsustainable. Healthy love strengthens your bonds, it doesn't weaken them. A man who truly loves you will want you to have a strong support network because he understands that it makes you happier, stronger, and more whole. And a woman who is strong, happy, and whole is far more attractive than one who is dependent and isolated. Healthy relationships are not built through isolation. They are built through integration. If the love is real, he will want to meet the important people in your life. He will want to be part of your world, not your entire world. The fifth self-destructive behavior I see time and again is having a child before marriage without being truly ready, especially when it's done in the hope of saving a relationship. This is something many women don't fully understand. A child should never be used as an emotional strategy to hold a man. I've seen women become pregnant, believing that a baby will strengthen the bond only for the opposite to happen. The woman's emotional insecurity is passed on to the child. The man feels manipulated, and the relationship collapses under pressure that should never have existed. This is especially tragic because it pulls an innocent being into a toxic dynamic. Children need emotionally stable parents, not parents who use parenthood as couples therapy. When a woman has a child to save a relationship, she places an impossible emotional burden on that child. Motherhood should be a conscious decision, not a survival strategy. It should come from love, not fear. It should be an extension of happiness, not an attempt to create it where it doesn't exist. Women who choose motherhood when they are in a truly stable, loving relationship tend to raise safer, happier children because they made that choice with the child at the center, not the instability of the relationship. They chose from fullness, not from lack. The sixth self-destructive behavior is lowering your standards to keep a man. And here's a truth you need to internalize. You are not an emotional rehabilitation center. I've seen extraordinarily intelligent women fall for toxic, addicted, violent, or unfaithful men, convinced that their love could change them. And always, without exception, it is the woman who changes, but for the worse. This behavior has deep roots in the feminine archetype of the rescuer, the healer, the woman who believes she can transform others through love. It is a beautiful archetype when expressed with wisdom, but it becomes deeply destructive when applied to romantic relationships with men who are not ready for love. When a woman lowers her standards, she sends a devastating message to her subconscious. I don't deserve to be treated well. And the subconscious, astonishingly obedient, begins to attract men who confirm that belief. Standards are not negotiable. They are a direct reflection of your self-worth. When you negotiate your standards, you are negotiating your value. And once you begin negotiating your value, you enter a downward spiral that is incredibly hard to stop. A man who cannot meet your most basic standards of respect, honesty, loyalty, and love is not a man who deserves your emotional energy. Your love is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Do not waste them on someone who cannot honor their worth. The seventh and final behavior that destroys women is harming themselves physically because of a man. And here is something decades of experience have taught me. No matter how intense emotional pain may be, it never justifies physical pain. I have seen women cut themselves, starve themselves, and hurt their own bodies because a man rejected them. And I always tell them the same thing. The pain you feel is real. It is valid. It deserves to be acknowledged. But your body is sacred. When a woman harms herself because of a man, she gives him a power he should never possess, the power over her physical integrity. And that is a boundary that must never, under any circumstance, be crossed. Emotional pain is a part of the human experience, especially in love. But there is a crucial difference between feeling pain and feeding pain, between honoring it and glorifying it. Women who learn to process emotional pain without turning it into physical harm develop extraordinary resilience. They come to understand that pain is information, not instruction. Pain tells you that something within you needs attention, but it does not tell you to destroy yourself. The pain of a broken heart is real, intense, and it can feel unbearable, but it will not kill you. The human heart is unbelievably resilient. It can break 1,000 times and still beat. It can bleed emotionally and still love. It can believe it won't survive and still find the strength to go on. All this leads me to one fundamental truth I've learned after years of therapeutic work. The holiest, most transformative, and most enduring form of love is self-love. And I'm not speaking of narcissistic or selfish love. I mean the kind of love that allows you to recognize your own inner worth. A woman who truly loves herself does not give up her dreams. She does not beg for commitment. She does not sacrifice her financial security. She does not isolate herself. She does not use a child as a strategy. She does not lower her standards. And she never harms herself for anyone. Self-love is not selfishness, it is responsibility. It is the responsibility to care for yourself as deeply and tenderly as you would care for someone you truly love. It is the responsibility to honor your life, your time, your energy, and your heart. When a woman truly loves herself, she sets clear boundaries not because she is cold or distrustful, but because she understands that boundaries are an expression of love, not rejection. Boundaries protect what is sacred, and you are sacred. And here lies the most beautiful paradox of all. When a woman fully loves herself, she becomes a magnet for true love, because authentic love is not looking for someone to rescue. It is seeking someone who is whole and who chooses to share that wholeness. I've seen women completely transform their lives when they embrace this truth. When they finally realize that love does not require them to disappear, it asks them to become fully themselves. They stop desperately seeking love and start creating a life so rich, so full, so meaningful that the right man feels honored just to be part of it. Because when a woman truly loves herself, she doesn't look for a man to complete her. She looks for a man who complements her. She isn't searching for someone to fill her emptiness, but for someone who celebrates her fullness. She isn't looking for a savior because she already knows she has saved herself. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, sometimes painful, but always transformative journey. It requires a woman to face her patterns that may have repeated for decades. It asks her to question beliefs she has carried since childhood. It demands that she re-examine everything she has ever been told about what it means to be a good woman. I've seen women cry in my practice when they realize they have spent their entire lives living for others, building their identity around being needed, confusing love with self-sacrifice. It is a deep pain, but a necessary one. It is the pain that precedes the birth of a new version of themselves. The path to self-love requires developing what I call applied emotional intelligence. That means learning to distinguish between genuine feelings and conditioned patterns. It means learning to trust your intuition without mistaking it for fear. It means learning to set boundaries without guilt. Applied emotional intelligence also means understanding that true love will never ask you to lose your identity. True love never asks you to make yourself smaller so that others can feel bigger. True love never asks you to dim your light so that others won't feel overshadowed. In my years of observation, I've noticed that women who cultivate this kind of emotional intelligence share one defining trait. They are discerning with their emotional energy. They do not give their hearts to just anyone. They do not invest their time and effort in men who haven't proven themselves worthy of that investment. They are generous with their love, but strategic with their devotion. These women understand something fundamental. Self-love is not a destination, it is a daily decision. Every day, they choose to honor themselves. Every day, they choose to protect their boundaries. Every day, they choose not to betray themselves for anyone. And when a man appears who truly deserves them, they recognize him instantly. Not because he's perfect, but because he honors them. Not because he's without flaws, but because his flaws do not include trying to control, diminish, or change them. A man who is worthy of a woman who loves herself is a man who celebrates her independence, admires her strength, respects her boundaries, supports her dreams, values her opinions, acknowledges her intelligence, honors her time, and treats her heart with care. Such a man isn't looking for a woman to save because he's already whole. He isn't seeking someone to depend on because he's already grounded in himself. He doesn't crave control because he's already in control of his own world. The relationship between two whole people is unlike any other kind of relationship. It's a relationship built on choice, not need. A partnership grounded in mutual celebration, not completion. It's a bond where both can grow without threatening the other. In these relationships, there is no competition, only collaboration. No need for control, only mutual respect. No manipulation, only honest communication. No drama, only peace. No insecurity, only trust. No possession, only freedom. I've seen relationships like this, and they are profoundly beautiful to witness. They are connections where both people flourish, where both become better versions of themselves, not because the other person changes them, but because the environment of love and respect allows them to unfold into their truest essence. But to experience a love like this, a woman must first do the inner work of truly loving herself. She must heal the wounds that make her seek validation from others. She must unlearn the patterns that cause her to betray herself in the name of love. She must reconnect with her essence, her dreams, and her inner power. This work is not easy, but it is absolutely necessary. Because as long as a woman does not fully love herself, she will continue to attract men who mirror that absence of self-love. She will keep falling into the same destructive patterns. She will continue to mistake intensity for love, drama for passion, and sacrifice for devotion. Self-love is the most powerful filter there is. When a woman truly loves herself, she naturally repels men who cannot honor that love and effortlessly attracts those who meet her at her emotional level. She begins to create relationships that are healthier, more balanced, and far more enduring. And here is something I want you to deeply absorb. It is never too late to start loving yourself. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made, how many times you've betrayed yourself, or how many years you've lost in toxic relationships. Every single moment is a new opportunity to choose differently. I've seen women at 50, 60, even 70 completely transform their lives once they decided to honor themselves. I've witnessed divorces that at first felt like tragedies evolve into beautiful new beginnings. I've seen women bloom in ways they never believed possible. The first step is always the same. Decide that you matter. Decide that your dreams matter. Decide that your happiness counts. Decide that your well-being counts. Decide that your life counts. The second step is to act in alignment with that decision. That means setting boundaries where there were none. Saying no where you once said yes. Prioritizing your needs without guilt. Following your dreams without asking for permission. The third step is to reaffirm that decision every single day, especially during the hard moments. Because there will be times when the temptation to fall back into old patterns is strong. Times when you feel lonely. Times when you doubt yourself. But every time you choose to honor yourself, every time you hold your boundaries, every time you refuse to betray your own heart, you are building emotional muscle. You are shaping a stronger, wiser, more powerful version of yourself. And eventually, the day will come when self-love is no longer a struggle, but your natural state. When setting boundaries feels effortless. When not betraying yourself feels as natural as breathing. And in that moment, my love, your entire life will change. Not just your romantic relationships, all of them. Your relationship to work, to family, to friends, and most importantly, your relationship with yourself. Everything will shift because you have transformed. And when real love finally arrives, and it will arrive, you recognize it not by the intensity it stirs in you, but by the peace it brings. Not by the drama it ignites, but by the calm it offers. Not by how it makes you feel about him, but by how it makes you feel about yourself. True love helps you become more of who you are, not less. It makes you stronger, not more fragile. Freer, not more dependent. More whole, not more needy. In the end, my love, you don't need to be found by the right man. You need to become so radiant, so strong, so fully rooted in yourself that real love has no choice but to recognize you. You must be so authentic, so powerful, and so centered that only an extraordinary man has the courage to approach you. And when that love arrives, and it won't be because you did everything right to earn it. It will be because you did everything right to honor yourself. Because you've created a life so beautiful, so rich, and so meaningful that it is a gift to share it, not a void to be filled. True love doesn't come to complete you. It comes to join you whole with whole, love with love. It comes to celebrate the fact that you were already complete. It doesn't come to save you, it comes because you've already saved yourself. It doesn't come to give you worth, it comes to honor the worth you've always carried within. You are light. You are strength. You are wisdom. You are love. You are whole. And any man fortunate enough to enter your life must understand that from the very first moment. You are not available for rehabilitation projects. You are not available for games. You are not available for halfway love. You are available for true love. For love that honors, for love that celebrates, for love that helps you grow. And that kind of love, my dear, is worth waiting for. It is worth every moment you spend preparing for it, every ounce of inner work you do to be ready for it. Because when it finally arrives, you will know without a single doubt that every moment of waiting, every effort, every transformation was absolutely worth it.